welcome back to the Bible Show. Today I'm going to be talking about a very novel topic. I think I might have hinted that that I might talk about it later. But today we're talking about the destiny of the righteous. I think a this is very cutting edge or bleeding edge, as my mentor would like to say, and bleeding edge as in it could definitely hurt if people use it the wrong way or if people misinterpret it or if the information is incorrect. Um, but I digress. So this is basically sort of like where the topic we're falling back onto, or like the basis, the foundational basis of this topic is sort of on the three different soul slants. We have righteous eye users, we have hybrids, and then we have devil's eye users. But I think I changed the nomenclature a little bit, and then we have now angel's eyes, hybrids, and devil's eye. But angel's eye doesn't flow too well, so maybe righteous eye instead. So we have this affirmed by sort of just throughout um, the collective unconscious. There's many stories of the devil's eye fighting against the righteous eye. We have a famous example in literature, which is in Proverbs, where Solomon talks about how a wise man does this and a fool does this. Fool is the devil's eye, and wise men are the righteous eye users. And we have hybrids mentioned in the Old Testament, where the righteous line of Seth married the evil line of Cain, and they produced hybrids, which in the Bible some people think are giants, but I think hybrids more so as people with a mix of evil and good, which is very common nowadays. And it's very interesting. It mentions in Proverbs that the wise and the foolish will always be at tension with each other because crooked lines hate straight lines, and straight lines don't really like crooked lines. And that's probably going to happen for the rest of time until someone really figures out, well, not someone really figures out, but someone on a mass scale does soul eugenics and wipes out the other soul slant, which I think is possible. I think it's pretty possible, especially with how less people are copulating. If like AI, some sort of or like this somehow it's systematized, or somehow this knowledge is brought into the mainstream. It's possible to wipe out the devil's line or hybrids, but I'm sure those people wouldn't want to be wiped out. Um, but yeah, it's just very fascinating. And another thing that's fascinating, even like at church, um, there's devil's eye users and there's righteous eye users. Not everybody at church is a righteous eye user. There's a lot of people. There's a good amount of people at church that are devil's eye users or hybrids. Some people's souls do naturally love evil, but they're still religious. I've seen this in many churches I've been to, like Protestant, Mormon, Latter-day Saints, Catholic. It's very fascinating, and it's where my audio. A fascinating thing is that if a devil's eye user does make it to heaven, I'm curious if their soul is cleansed and their devil's eyes wiped out. I mean, it sounds like a very silly question, but it would have to be. And so that's basically the framework or basis of this topic of this video. And today we're going to be diving a little bit deeper into and I sort of hinted at like the three different, how there's like different types of righteous eye users, different types of hybrids, and different types of devil's eye users. So we're going to list them all here. And I think everyone's going to start seeing a lot of patterns. I think people are going to start maybe remembering some bad memories, or remembering some good memories, and remembering some not so fond memories. So we have hyper-righteous. I'll stick with the righteous nomenclature. We have medium righteous. We have lower righteous. Then we have onto hybrids, righteous hybrid, hybrid, devil's eye hybrid, devil's eye, devil's eye hybrid. Then we have lower devil's eye, medium devil's eye, and hyper devil's eye. So these are the 9 different soul slants that appear in human beings, and anyone watching can probably, maybe off the top of their head, take a gander at what soul slant they are. Um, it's extremely fascinating. It's like type where you can't really change it. Like a devil's eye user can try to fit in with righteous eye users, but at the end of the day, they're still devil's eye. I've never seen. I'm not sure if trauma can change it, but I've never seen a devil's eye user ever change to a righteous eye user. And on that note, I've never seen a righteous eye user ever change permanently to devil's eye user. It must take. I don't even think brain trauma can do it because the soul is probably in the brain. But yeah, I probably have to do my research on people who've been lobotomized or something like that. But I don't think it's possible to change the soul slant. And this topic brings up there's a lot of subtopics within it. It is a separate video I want to make this. I think people are going to find interesting. But yeah, so these are the 9 different soul slants, and it's very fascinating how it sort of represents the Trinity. We have Father, Son, Holy Spirit, and that's sort of random. It's just the idea of 3, like the Trinity, our triune God, and it's very fascinating how there's within the triuneness, there's 3 different types of hybrids, 3 different types of righteous eye users, and 3 different types of devil's eye users. And devil's eye users can be good people. They can. It's really hard. It's really hard for them to be good people, but they can be good people. Hybrids, they can be good people as well. They're sort of like they're a mixed mash. We'll get into that later. Or I mentioned it before, but they're sort of a mishmash. And righteous eye users, they can be very bad people, very bad people. But then at the end of the day, they sort of have a craving for They have a craving for goodness or light. Um, yeah, so we're gonna dive in top to bottom, and we're gonna get into different patterns of people. And maybe later, maybe I'll try to guess the percentages out of the whole population. So you have hyper righteous people. Actually, I wonder if I should give it all and let people digest it. Give some people some food for thought. Okay. Actually, I think people might figure it out after their first set. So hyper righteous people are people that are the gist of it is as good as you can possibly be. And hyper righteous users are pretty rare. These people are like in society they're known as like it's like sort of for guys. It's sort of like a James Bond archetype, like a Robin Hood archetype, like a anti-hero. They're sort of a fascinating thing with being hyper righteous is the hyper righteous people understand. Well, the guys do that sometimes doing the right thing doesn't always produce good, which is contrary to Romans, whereas like good actually that's nuanced. And from a human understanding, sometimes doing good does not produce good. Sometimes you have to cut corners or sort of do quote unquote evil about things for good to come about. For example, like sometimes maybe if you do a bad thing and it gets what's the saying? Oh, I know the saying. There's no such thing as bad publicity. Sometimes like doing like a publicity stunt, which may be not so ethical, can probably get you a lot of attention for like your charity or your cancer fundraiser. So it's sort of like the ends justify the means. Sometimes a lot of righteous eye users have that mindset of mind, but especially the hyper righteous, because they want to be as good as they can possibly be. Deep down, a lot of actions, most of the actions are driven by that being as good as they can possibly be. And sometimes they understand that. I'm sure they've tried it before, like being like a good person. Sometimes it's not always good to change people to be better people. So sometimes they realize that they have to do extreme things. So an example of a hyper righteous person in popular culture is President Trump. Um, it's for me. I mean, like I think with practice, with these 9 slants in mind with practice, I think anyone can be able to identify it off the bat. But I can just um, I can just tell being just from uh, like experience, I can tell he's just a hyper righteous user. And this is why a lot of people think Trump is crazy, even though he's not. He's just he's trying to get nukes away from a bad nation, just also stopping a bad regime, bad government, and yeah, it seems like he's crazy, but he's trying to like when you try to be as good as you can possibly be, of course, it's gonna be really expensive. But who else is gonna like really put their neck on the line, like risk, like put their reputation on the line to try to like um, think ahead and do what's good for the nation in the far future. Um, but there's hyper like I mentioned before. Although we have President Trump, who's in the mainstream right now, hyper righteous users are pretty rare. Typically, they're sort of people that are really easy to take advantage of. Of course, like there can be tough guys, like really strong people out there, but I deep down like there are people that can be easy to take advantage of, kind of like pushovers, sort of like the nicest guy or girl in the room. Um, sort of what Proverbs mentions, Proverbs chapter 31, sort of a good wife is more precious than rubies, which is 100% true because um, because of the economics of it. Um, there's less hyper righteous women out there than there are rubies. So this is how it works mathematically, the logic behind that. So it is true. Proverbs chapter 31 is 100% true because there's more diamonds out there than hyper righteous women. Yeah, yeah, 100%. 100% is the case. So yeah, these people are not so rare. Very easy to be oppressed by the other soul slants who have different ideas, but they sort of are the best of society. Definitely the brightest stars, the most talented people in society. Often like some of the greatest athletes in the world are hyper righteous users. Like yeah, Michael Jordan, Roger Federer. Righteousness and intelligence go hand in hand. Like being hyper righteous makes you extremely intelligent. Every hyper righteous person I met is extremely sharp, and I guess the difference probably comes down to destiny, um, like being anointed by God or something. Like maybe God wanted Michael Jordan to be an amazing basketball player, because there's other hyper righteous users, but that's a different topic, intelligence and or just sort of difference in hyper righteous users. But yeah, I would attribute it to destiny. If anyone's curious in that topic, I'm just curious about that, so that's why I mentioned it. And yeah, these people very the best, definitely the best of society, but they can be the worst. And I say that because it's the New Testament. Um, Wise men chase after the flesh. Often these people are very wise. And so when you're wise, it brings Ecclesiastes. Wisdom brings sorrow to the soul. So often these people like chase, especially the guys, like the guys that they've been through a lot of life, are very wise. Often chase after the flesh because a normal lifestyle is, is so much suffering and pain for those people that they just they sort of as an outlet they chase after the flesh, not because they want to be evil, but just they have the wisdom as well as just sort of it really gives them like joy and happiness as just the when you know like sometimes you know so much about the life that it's just being alive right just being alive hurts. So you gotta have those people, I guess, have some outlets for that. And then we have the medium righteous, which is as good as you are. Now, medium righteous people, I they're more common than hyper righteous. They're people that are righteous. They're very right. They're righteous people, but usually they're as righteous as they are, and sort of people that you take as at face value. Doesn't mean that they're not right. That doesn't mean that's not to denigrate their righteousness, but it's a sort of like they're not like hyper righteous where they're trying to be as good as they can possibly be, sort of like a self improvement. Well, everyone has a self improvement, but like to be a shining light. But medium righteous people are usually as good as they are, and like some medium righteous users like Trent Horn, he's a Catholic YouTuber. Um, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, he's like an actor. I'm sure a lot of people might identify themselves as medium righteous, um, as good as they are. But usually they're definitely one of the best of society, and but harder to take advantage of than hyper righteous users. But yeah, there's a good amount of them out there. And then we have lower righteous, as good as they allow themselves to be. So lower righteous people, they're very common. Maybe like 20% of the population is lower righteous. These people, they have righteousness about them, they have light in their eyes, but they're a lot weaker than hyper righteous and medium righteous users. And they have a love and care for righteousness, but it's often to the extent as they allow themselves. And I say that because I often see the pattern with lower righteous people. They often prioritize their cognitive origins over righteousness. Like, let's go say someone's a discovery type like myself. They might prioritize their discovery over their righteousness. I see that happen so often. Or they're like an authority type or a connection type. They might prioritize their connection um, over righteousness. Like just like someone can like use their imagination to figure out what that would look like for a connection type or discovery type or justification type. Um, and I guess some themes that play out that might explain more of the lower righteous. We have this thing in society right now where lower righteous and medium righteous is sort of cannibalizing hyper righteous, and this happens later too, which is very fascinating. So we have like a lower righteous person, someone off the top of my head like Ben Shapiro. Um, it's very strange. No, it's not. It's not. It seems strange in the beginning, but it kind of makes sense. Often, like lower righteous and medium righteous people, they don't like hyper righteous people, and hyper righteous people don't like medium or lower righteous because they think that these people are not as being as good as they can possibly be. And lower righteous and medium righteous people don't like hyper righteous because they bend the rules in order to be good. So we see that a lot, and we just see that play out a lot. I mentioned Ben Shapiro for lower righteous, and if you think about the people he hates or dislikes, it plays out with these patterns. And like I mentioned Trump, I'm not too sure, but it's just besides the point. I digress. Um, it's there's so many lower righteous. There's a good amount of medium righteous. So these people like mostly have an understanding of each other, but they don't often understand hyper righteous people, which is being as good as they can possibly be. Um, so there's often a hatred for the hyper righteous because they're so different, And hyper righteous people often have a dislike for medium righteous and low righteous because they don't understand them. And this plays out so often in society, sort of like in politics it happens. Like a lot of lower righteous and medium righteous users hate Trump because they don't really understand like why he does things. Um, the people that love Trump are usually higher righteous users, maybe like medium righteous or hyper righteous. Um, so it plays out a lot, like all over the place in the workplace, in school, relationships. But it's fascinating. It's just a tidbit on relationships. Usually, the person I've noticed that people end up marrying is their same type in terms of soul slant. So if you're a righteous hybrid, you marry a righteous hybrid. If you're a lower devil's eye, you marry a lower devil's eye or a medium devil's eye, usually. If you're a medium righteous, usually marry a medium righteous. Or if you're hyper righteous, those are usually the couples that people end up with, which is very interesting. Like at the end of the day, I've always noticed that. So those are the people because it offers the most satisfaction because they're basically the same soul slant as well as they have the chemistry from different types. So that is very fascinating. But that's a theme to think about that might explain. Maybe actually once we get a whole picture of everything, it might explain things better. But then we have righteous hybrids. So righteous hybrids are a mix of evil and good. This hybrid is leaning towards righteousness. So these are mostly good people, but they have like some evil in them. And hybrids, which are sort of like just like regular people, just regular folk. And they sort of come off as regular folk as well. Not the most intelligent. It would be like with righteousness, not to insult people. Righteousness which is associated with intelligence. Being a hybrid really heavily reduces your intelligence because when you understand evil by being a purebred devil's eye, you understand righteousness as being a purebred righteous eye. You sort of like you instinctively understand good and bad. But hybrid eye users have a difficult time really understanding good and bad because they're sort of a mix. Devil's eye hybrid is sort of leaning towards a hybrid leaning towards evil. That sounds so harsh. Evil. And then we have lower devil's eye is as evil as you allow yourself to be. Then we have medium devil's eye, as evil as you are. And then we have hyper devil's eye, which is very fast. I think it's gonna fascinate a lot of people. As evil as you can possibly be. So just to break down this, if anyone actually, I think a lot of people are curious. So we have this same situation going on with righteous eye users, which is very much the case. Lower devil's eye users maybe like less common than lower righteous from what I've seen. As evil, as bad as you allow yourself to be. I think I'll use the word bad. As bad as you allow yourself to be. It's like they're mostly good people, but sometimes oftentimes the bad comes out. But mostly they get along well in society. And then you have medium devil's eye, which is as evil as you are. Usually kind of nasty people if you're not a devil's eye user as well, or a hybrid. But yeah, these people are just you can take them at face value. You can't really expect more than that. But of course, if you don't know someone's a devil's eye or you don't have experience, you probably might get really upset when you get betrayed. And then we have hyper devil's eye, as evil as you can possibly be. Now this is interesting. A lot of people don't understand how this plays out, and I'll explain it from my experience. So I had a manager who I consider one of my best friends, even though he's a hyper devil's eye. I being this slant, and so how a hyper devil's eye works is that you're sort of like Satan. When you're hyper devil's eye, you're sort of like Satan. No, you kind of are like Satan. And when you're hyper righteous eye, you're sort of like God. And God's hard to understand. That goes to the earlier point we mentioned why these types hate hyper righteous users. So how Satan works, if anyone has read the New Testament, is sort of he likes to, or the Old Testament too, but mostly the New Testament, he likes to tempt people. So telling you like $1 million to like it's gonna find a lot of people for a guy to wear a dress. So you, if I give you $1 million, you get I'll give you $1 million if you wear a dress, and that's basically how. It's a hyper devil's eye user. It's not just about being evil. It's about tempting people towards evil, which is extremely fascinating. So these people are like sort of like walking Satans, and it's I've seen it happen before too. Now, I've seen it happens often. Where lower devil's eye and medium devil's eye, they hate hyper devil's eye users because they're sort of they're like way too evil. Evil. Their evil sort of like annoys medium and lower devil's eye, which is extremely fascinating. I've seen this happen. Um, I've seen this happen before, and yeah, like so. Speaking of satisfaction, like people are most satisfied with people like them. The principle we mentioned before. So even though like righteous eye users and devil's eye users are across the spectrum, the people that can be best friends or find satisfaction are like hyper devil's eye and hyper righteous, because these people are sort of like superheroes and these people are like super villains. It's like Batman versus the Joker. I've seen medium righteous users get along with medium devil's eye or find satisfaction with each other, and lower righteous with lower devil's eye, lower devil's eye with righteous hybrid. Those people, those types of people find, well, actually, not really with this case, but I actually haven't seen this too much, lower devil's eye and lower righteous eye. But yeah, I don't want to speak too much about my former manager because, of course, we're very different. But I considered I considered him my best friend because he that he was um he was someone he was he was he was just very. I'll just leave it at that. I'll leave it at three varies. But hybrid devil's eye users, they're pretty rare. They're pretty rare. They're like hyper righteous eye users. They don't fit in too well with society because, like hyper righteous users who are as good as they can possibly be, these people want to be as evil as they can possibly be, and so that makes them sort of outcasts in society because they're not as common too. So they actually like hyper righteous users. They hang out with like a lot of people because they don't. Some devil's eye, some hybrids, some righteous eye users because they don't really fit in. They're outcasts, and so do hyper righteous eye users. They hang out with a lot of people because they're sort of outcasts. And there's a theme to remember with hyper devil's eye users is they're like Satan. So it's being evil on top of tempting people to do evil, also taking on the appearance of good, extreme deception. And hyper righteous eye users um, being as good as you can possibly be, and also like some deception with allowing themselves to appear to be evil in order to further conduct good. So these are like really the martyr types of people. And yeah, so that's basically the 9 different soul slants. Um, just like the school system, they have the same that like the school system, like high school K to 12 education, like at the moment favors women more, or favors certain personality types. The world itself mostly favors I would say lower righteous and hybrids. Um, the like the most like the most common folk. So they so they're the most common folk. They're most likely one of these people is likely to be like a banker, a very wealthy banker, um, a person with a lot of authority, a policeman, a cop. There's a lot of lower righteous cops. A lot of some hybrid cops. Mostly cops are lower righteous and medium righteous. I think I met one hyper righteous cop recently. He was a nice. He's nice. He's a nice guy. And not a lot of devil's eye people I notice, but they're here and there, definitely here and there. But sort of how sort of how society functions is sort of how all these soul slants, these 9 soul slants, interact with each other. Um, and it's sort of like the gist of this concept I have in my head is sort of like I think we have hybrids that rule the world. We have Larry Fink, who I'm pretty sure is a hybrid. He's like owner of BlackRock or something. Excuse me, he is the owner of BlackRock. And hybrids can really play both sides. They can play devil's eye users and they can play righteous eye users because they're sort of a mix. And a righteous eye hybrid would have the intelligence to do so. So I think hybrids sort of rule the world, and the system they have is really oppressive towards devil's eye users who want to be as evil as they can possibly be, and hyper righteous users who want to be as good as they can possibly be. So definitely the world system doesn't favor all the types. There's some types like they want to do. There's some types like maybe we can break down what political system each type favors. Like hyper devil's eye would maybe be communism, maybe because most people suffer. So probably communism, like Pol Pot's regime. He was a devil's eye user, and he wanted to kill all the intelligent people, get rid of medicine. So he wanted to kill all the righteous eye users. So that was sort of a genocide. Or devil's eye users. Well, actually, the Pol Pot's regime was a mix of like righteous eye users, hybrids, but he was a devil's eye user himself. So he wanted to wipe out all the righteous eye users. He wanted to live in agrarian culture. So this is like communism, righteous eye, like medium righteous and lower righteous users. This is like actually this is like democracy. It's like a republic, and hyper righteous users is like a monarchy or dictatorship. It's like because they're basically sort of like gods, or like they have the capability to be really basically sort of like the archetype of God. And that's where we have President Trump. A lot of people accuse him of being a king. If anyone remembers the No Kings movement, so a lot of different themes play out. There's so much to dive into, like how all these slants interact. Human history events, which slant went after this slant. Not because they knew it, or maybe they did know it to some extent, but like how world history plays out because of all these slants. How are all these slants produced? I've seen hybrids and a lower righteous, medium righteous produce a hyper righteous. There's a pattern. But I mentioned that before in the soul eugenics video. So definitely be careful who you make a baby with, because a devil's eye user wants to produce a devil's eye user probably. A lower righteous wants to produce a righteous eye user, or a righteous eye user wants to produce a righteous eye user. So definitely be careful who you have a baby, who you have kids with. And that's why like different more themes from the collective unconscious plays out, like people that hate their kids, or people that hate their parents, like different soul slants. So like disagree or don't get along with. That's a nicer word to use. And like any theme from the collective unconscious that people can think about: cheating, divorce, adultery, marriage, workplace, arguments, debates, politics, political systems, economic systems. A lot of it stems from people's soul slants. Oligarchies, monarchies, sports, different aspects of sports, managing, coaching, dancing. That's kind of that dancing. That's kind of random, but yeah, it's yeah. So I guess some practical advice to them. We could go on and on. Hyper devil's eye users, be careful. They kind of disguise themselves as good people, sort of like how Satan disguised themselves as angel of light. So be careful. But they're pretty like they're evil. They're they're kind of easy to placate because they don't fit in. They're outcast. But don't let them don't make a don't let them tempt you into evil because it's not worth it. Just like just be nice, be friendly with them. Medium devil's eye, lower devil's eye users. I guess they all get along with each other, but I expect betrayal. I expect people to like talk about you behind your back. Same thing with righteous eye users. Um, Righteous users, medium right, lower righteous users. They're the weakest of the righteous eye users, so kind of expect try not to offend them. They're kind of easily offended, and righteousness also equates to strength. So these types are sort of the this is like the guy you shouldn't have messed with archetype. I know these people. They play the long haul when it comes to. They're not like Catholic or Christians, or they don't have any ethics or moral. These guys and gals play the long haul of getting even with someone. I've seen these people go to extremes, hybrids too, because they have righteousness inside of them. But these people more so, it's like they kind of like talk behind your back and complain to get even. But these people, righteous eye users, they go to extremes. Um, yeah. And hyper righteous users, you got to be careful because these people, and sometimes they're so good, like that they can be like they're such good people that sometimes they can be like they're such with hyper righteous users, they can be such good people that they become jaded or like very wise in life. So they can be like dangerous people to be around, but just the situations they put themselves into to sort of feel happy or feel good in life, like for the guys and for the women, not a lot of hyper righteous users, but they kind of they're very nice, very maybe too nice. Well, you can say that about any hyper righteous users. Too nice people that are too nice. So definitely definitely like even though they're nice, you got to be careful with hyper righteous users because they always have a string attached to their niceness, which is that they're so righteous and intelligent is that they can be very violent because it's just a thing with hyper righteous because they're brave people, they're the bravest people out there, and so they can be extremely violent because they're intelligent too. They know that they're so nice, but they counteract it with violence. It's like if you mess with them, they're gonna get violent or just bluff violence, which 80% of the time it's bluffing violence. 20% of the time something might actually happen. But yeah, this is very interesting. We could go all day talking about this. Definitely a lot of food for thought for anyone watching to think about. Why does society play out like this? Why I think people can figure out all their friends or all the people in their lives through different slants, but sort of like how society interacts. The future, we want to take society. What sort of types we want to allow to rule us, hyper righteous users. It's not even biased as a hyper right as the soul slant myself, but it's sort of like it ends up being the best for society, even though people don't understand it unless you're hyper righteous yourself. And definitely, if this knowledge, I don't think this knowledge can get into the wrong hands. You got to be careful for eugenics, people that want to wipe out certain races. sort of like with the Cambodian genocide, which is wiping out the righteous side users, or the intelligent, the righteous side users. But I don't think that'll happen again. A genocide. I don't think people would choose. I don't think people would choose communism again because we're fortunate that no one's really having children. So devil's eye users, they're falling far. Communism is falling far and few between, as well as dictatorships or monarchies. But yeah, I hope this video was insightful and interesting. I hope everyone was able to identify their soul slant. I hope it's helpful. Not again, but could I share with everyone, like, let everyone figure out this knowledge is sort of more proof of intelligent design. Um, yeah, it really isn't random. Sometimes you meet an atheist. I have to. Sorry to spell my mind recently. Sometimes you meet an atheist like it says life is all random. But there's so many clues that there's intelligent design. It's like there's two people at a roulette table. One person thinks it's all black, so they put all their money on black. But the other person sort of sees that there's red in the board, and actually a lot of red. Maybe it's all. To be honest, it's all red. It's all red. And so they put all their money in red, and the person that put all their money in black, tells the person that put all their money in red that the red person is a fool. And the red person that put all their money in red, says to the person that bet it all on black, "You are colorblind, good sir." And that's sort of the story of every debate between an atheist and a theist. But I do think the board, I think as we can tell now, there's a mix of red and black on the board. So hopefully everyone places all their bets correctly. And as always, if this video was helpful, do share it with the rest of the world. And stay safe, stay blessed.